Hi Liz, how are you?
Hi, Glenn. Good. How are you?
Yes, fantastic. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, you're well.
Um, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have a quick chat with me
Yeah.
about ELPA.
Yeah.
And so if we could begin with the big easy question, maybe easy question, is what actually is ELPA?
So ELPA, it's a newly formed not-for-profit that essentially is a voice and an industry body to give to early learning photographers in Australia. Up until this point, we haven't had one. There was a gap there. We had no industry body, we had no voice, we had no advocacy. And myself and other photographers around Australia were finding this quite challenging in quite regulated times that we've come across. So we felt the need to unify the industry, essentially.
Yeah, look, definitely over my travels through international, through Europe and US, we've noticed that there are sort of more and more of these bodies
Mm,
arising.
hmm.
There's more or less we see it in the school industry, school photo
Yeah.
industry. Um, but I know that we haven't seen anything in the childcare and kinder sort of industry.
Yeah, and I think that that's because often it's been seen as a very, hobby or a side hustle and not taken seriously for what it is. And considering we're working with the youngest children in Australia, I think it's very important that we are operating a certain way and we do have some regulations on board and we do have some framework to operate under, because up until now it was just kind of, you know not do whatever you like, but there were many parents doing it for their child's daycare if they happen to be a photographer. And there's no disrespect to people who do that because they do a wonderful job, but they might not be hitting all of the privacy regulations or insurances that are required to operate within these early learning centres in this day and age. So I think it was just, yeah, it was one of those things that we kind of went, this needs to happen to see this industry thrive for the next 10 years. I don't want this to stop for the next generation of children to then not have those yearly memories. 100%.
We all remember them, right? In kinder, my mother's got the photographs, and you bring them out and go, "Oh my God,
Oh,
I wonder what
absolutely.
I wonder
Yeah.
what happened to that kid. He was my best friend, or she was my,
Mhm.
all of
Yeah.
those things."
At school reunions, 50-year reunions, my dad had his school photos there. That it's really important. It's such a benchmark memory for parents to have of their child right from those kindy days through to their end of schooling. And it's the same or similar style of format. It's the child's close up. You can see their facial features. You see how they change over the years. And it's such an important part of a parent's life, along with the child. So for the child to sort of see that change in themselves. Mm.
So, why was ELPA established,
Yeah.
and what problems within the early learning photography industry is it really seeking to address here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret that the childcare industry has been under intense media scrutiny over the last 12 months. They've had some pretty horrible things happening within that industry. And also the child safety reforms that have come in over multiple states, and nationally through ASIQA's regulations to the centres. We as photographers were finding that there were different regulations from centre to centre. And then it kind of all snowballed when national company Good Start put a blanket ban on all school photographer businesses. That was late last year. So this was quite disruptive and quite a shock to some businesses, mine included. it prompted discussion. It prompted discussion from multiple photographers in multiple different states, and we all came together and went, okay, how do we deal with this? How do we move forward? How do we protect this industry to move forward safely and move forward in a positive way that meets ASICWA's guidelines? And so this took place over many meetings with photographers in WA, Victoria, ACT, Queensland. So, you know, a really good vast majority of Australia. And we all had very different businesses. So different business models, different types of photographers, all working within the early learning sector. So it was, that I feel was quite good, because there was nobody, like we're not trying to, you know, push an agenda or a way of photographing or a way of doing business even. It was, okay, well, what do we feel is the best way forward for this industry to move together as a unified front, to, you know, to protect. I mean, for me, my business has been going for 18 years. This is my life's work. And I mean, if it was, there was potential there for the whole industry to collapse if we did not have a strong foundation in place to move forward, and that addressed all of the concerns of the childcare industry, because they were valid. They were definitely valid. And they're at no point through any of the meetings were that, when we were putting together the framework, none of it was, oh, that's ridiculous. It was, yeah, okay, that's warranted. How do we address that? How do we work? What's the best practice here?
So essentially, the ELPA founders have gotten together and looked at all the documentation and gone, how can we as photographers adapt this and streamline and make sure
Oh,
that all the
100%.
centers know
Oh, yeah.
that, yeah.
100%. And that took place in lots of industry consultation too. So a lot of us went to, you know, our directors that we've had close relationships with, centers that we've had close relationships with, and said, look, what do you think? This is our draft work of, you know, of the framework that we're putting together. What do you think? We had some amazing feedback from kinders saying, you know, look at linking it all to the UN rights of the child, because that's where everything comes from in their practice. They always look to that. So we put together a physical touch standpoint, and, you know, and looking at the ways a child can give or not give consent while being photographed. You know, things like that became really important in putting this framework together, along with consultation surrounding security. You know, okay, well, how do we keep these images secure? What is that best practice? What does that look like? And galleries, having password protected galleries, making sure websites were not accessible without passwords for each individual child. We spoke about transparency within your business. So disclosing if you are using third-party editors or printers, or, you know, what that workflow looks like. And then that truly makes up the foundation for informed consent, is what we felt really necessary. Up until this point, it was, you know, you could just go in as a photographer, you take your photos, and then, you know, you deliver them later. I think that we've moved past that point, and having these things in place where photographers can, you know, put up their workflow charts, give it to the centres, parents can see that, and then they can give informed consent and go, oh yeah, I'm cool with that. Yep, I'm happy for my child to participate. So, you know, and I don't think that that's difficult for any business. Every business can do that. That's not difficult. And then it's giving those parents the choice to say yes or no.
Yeah.
And I mean, I to me, it's that easy.
Yeah. Those transparent policies are so important to be upfront, but not jargon, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's got to be everyday speak that the centers can go, this is clearly how data is, or done, or consent is done, or whatever those different features are.
Yeah.
So policy writing obviously has become the important thing here as well,
Yeah, for sure.
but adhering to those policies which align with the framework, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and every parent, I mean, if you've had young kids dropping off at daycare, you do not have time to read a big long policy. It's like, okay, here you go, see you, Charlie, bye.
Mm,
You
mm,
don't have time to read. So simple, like you said, simple language, really easy, transparent process. Um, that's that's the key. I believe that
yeah,
is going to make things really easy for parents to be able to give their consent or not, which
yeah.
should be reserved without judgment. So yeah.
Yeah. So boiling it down,
Hmm.
ELPA has designed a framework for
Hmm.
accreditation.
Yeah.
And so what does that accreditation look like? And how will it
Yeah.
give childcare centres and families greater confidence when
Yeah.
choosing a photographer?
Yeah. So the way we've set up, so we've got a great website that's functioning at the moment that has the framework on there that either childcare centres or photographers wishing to become accredited on there, they can download that framework, go through it in depth. They can make notes on where their systems sit within that framework. And then there's just a really simple checklist basically that they can go through. They do need to upload evidence of things like their ABN, their insurance policies for public liability, and along with a stat dec to say that they are going to adhere to this set of framework guidelines. We've had instances where photographers have gone through the accreditation process and put, I'm unsure if I
Mm,
meet this requirement. And we as a board have been able to help them gain compliance, which to me, that's just amazing, and I feel like that's why we're here. We are it's a voluntary board. We are doing this purely to see the industry thrive because we want it to thrive for every business in Australia, not just ours. So to me, I feel like that's been a massive success, even just with this one case of we were able to help this business go find a flaw in their system and go, oh, all right, we can help you fix that.
mm.
um,
The rising tide lifts all boats, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely, working together collaboratively. Yeah.
because if we look at it in if something has happened or happens,
Mm.
let's say to a photography company, they
Hmm.
make a mistake
Hmm.
or something bad happens, that hurts everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, we all get tarred with the same brush.
Yeah, and that's
Unfortunately.
essentially, yes,
Yeah.
and that's obviously what we don't want to see in
No.
any sector of the industry, would it be school or early learning or
Yeah.
sports photography, whatever it is. It will affect the industry or niche of that industry.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
And it's funny because, I've spoken with lots of parents about ELPA and pretty no one has said, oh, that's a terrible idea. Everyone has gone, oh, yeah, why don't you guys have why was there not one in the first place? I was like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
And the real stark contrast between their kindy age child getting kindy photos and they're going through all of this, consent giving and all the rest. Their child then goes to school, completely different kettle of fish.
it
So
is. Yes.
literally, within a year. So, and I think that we would love to see ELPA move into that school photography industry as well. I don't think it should just be for daycares. I think that this framework is applicable for early learning and school photographers alike, because we're all photographing children, essentially under the age of 18. So I think it should be one in the same.
Yep, it's very interesting, and of course, I know in the past that we've tried in Australia with the schools,
Yeah.
but to whatever reasons, it's unfortunately hasn't continued, and so
Mm.
on. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, I would definitely love to see that sort of move into schools as
Mm.
well again. Um, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But looking ahead 5 years,
Hmm.
uh, what would success look like for ELPA? And how do you hope it will be, or how do you hope it will change the early learning photography industry?
Yeah, look, my hope is that it really and truly unifies this very amazing niched photography industry. Like I said, for too long, I feel like we have been, um, considered a hobby or a side hustle, not a legit
The profession.
photography profession. And we
Mm,
truly are, because we're photographing little people. We have a lot, and big people alike, because obviously we're photographing the staff as well. We're handling images, we're handling data, we're handling financial data, there is a lot there that we should be recognized as a professional industry. So for me, success for ELPA would be a strong base of members in both the childcare or the early learning and the school sector, and that the childcare industry, that's what they would look for. If they're booking a photographer, they would go to the website. They would use the find a photographer search bar and go, all right, well, who's an ELPA registered member in my region, and trust that. And I mean, this framework might evolve as regulations evolve. We will evolve with it, but it would give them confidence to go, yeah, cool. They're going to operate a certain way. We know that those regulations meet our regulations. Tick.
yeah.
Simple as that. Honestly, it is as simple as that
Yeah.
for me.
Yep, absolutely. So for someone, a small business, a photographer that's watching this now and going, okay, what do I do now? What do
Yeah.
you suggest to them?
Yeah, look, head to the website. That's where all of the data is. So you can download the framework for free. It's not, behind a paywall. So download it, look through it. If you have suggestions, email them to us. Like I said, we will continue to evolve. If there is something that we've missed, I mean, I don't think so. We've it's been draft, I don't know, 7, but we'll continue to evolve with the industry. So if there's suggestions, if they are unsure, reach out. Do the application. Our founding membership is just $99. We've kept it low for a reason, because we're just starting. We don't have loads of resources to offer yet, but there will be. We're looking at putting together an employee network for employee sharing, which, if we're all operating under the same way, that is such an easy process then for another photographer to go, oh, I'm stuck. Let's see who's available.
Great
Oh, I'll
idea.
grab you.
Yeah.
There's the Find a Photographer site for early learning centres to check whether their photographer is ELPA accredited. So the application process is quite simple. If there is a box that is unchecked, if the applicant is unsure whether they meet a certain category's guidelines, they can check unsure. That then prompts us to put their membership as pending, and we reach out as a board and say, hey, where do you need help? Let's set up a chat. Let's do some emailing. Let's figure out where we can help you gain accreditation. So
Yeah.
it's not difficult. You do need, obviously, those few things to upload and do the stat deck. That's just to keep it professional, because otherwise, it's preventing people from just going, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fantastic. And that website is elpa.au. Yep.
yes,
I'm
correct.
sure we'll put that up on the screen in the editing of this video.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Liz, for your time this morning.
Very welcome.
Much appreciated. And we'll definitely keep our ears and eyes open, and hopefully this short video can at least get some more ears and eyes open about what ELPA is and what the organization is trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to have any photographer on board.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Thanks, Liz.
You're welcome. See ya.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.